Welcome back to another episode of OpenRCT2 tutorials. In this video, we'll be looking back in time to 2023 for a year in review. I'll be showcasing all 24 videos that I've posted since first starting this channel last year. Well, technically I posted 4 videos in 2022, but last year was when I really started posting regularly on this channel. Now, 24 might sound like a lot of videos, but I'm going to move through them quickly, and I'm going to be starting with the least viewed video, going all the way to the most viewed video, according to YouTube. And if there's some videos that you haven't seen before and they pique your interest, they are all linked in the video description below. But before we get started, I just want to thank all of you for the amazing comments you've left on my videos, like some of the ones shown here. The whole point of this channel and my goal is to share with all of you the tips and tricks that I've discovered over the years playing this 20-something-year-old game. So I really appreciate all of your kind words. They make all of the time and effort I put into these videos worth it, so thank you. Now starting off in 24th place, my least viewed tutorial is of the Downdraft or WindstarZ ride. Now, I don't know why more people haven't watched this video because I think this is a really fun ride to add to any park. You have the vehicles going around in a circle while also going up and down at the same time. The swinging vehicles add another element to it. You can also swap the vehicles out for something that doesn't swing, but I just think this is a really fun ride. The game doesn't really have anything like it, so if you haven't seen this video, you should definitely check it out and add it to your park. It only involves a little bit of shoestringing, but nothing too difficult. In 23rd place, we have the Parachute Drop Tower. Now this was recently posted, which might explain the lower views, but also it is the longest tutorial I have ever made and the most advanced. There are some difficult shoestrings involved, but I do appreciate the comments where people were mentioning how easy it was to follow this tutorial, and if you can stick with it, it makes for an amazing addition to your park. Look at this huge tower with the parachutes dropping down from it. It is quite the eye-catcher. And stay tuned because there will be a part 2 where I will show you this easy tweak that enables the vehicles to operate independently of each other, so that is going to make it even more fun, so stay tuned for that. Next, we have the hang gliders or Cliffhanger ride. You typically find these at traveling fairs and carnivals, and it's super easy to build in the game. There's no shoestringing involved, and I think the flying coaster trains make it fun and unique. It's super simple, and you can save the track design when you're done and then add it to any of your parks or use it in scenario play. Just needs a little bit of decoration and you're good to go. I think the game is severely lacking in flat rides, so I've tried to recreate as many real-world flat rides as possible, and this is no exception. In 21st place, we have my most recent video, which is a park tour of Notre. This is a park that was built for one of Dirklink's contests on his Discord server. I teamed up with another user named Sorted, and we combined the ideas of Notre Dame and McDonald's for this ridiculous and silly park. We basically have a McDonald's facade all around the bottom of the cathedral, and then you have the Hamburglar coaster that encircles it. There's lots of golden arch and burger paraphernalia everywhere, and there's even a drive-through that encircles the whole thing. It's just super fun to look at, and I have to give a lot of credit to Sorted because he was responsible for this intricate cathedral, which is amazing, so definitely a fun one to check out. Next, we have the WindSeeker or StarFlyer ride. Now, I'm pretty sure the WindSeekers only exist at Cedar Fair parks, and you will probably never see another one built again, but you can build one in your rollercoastertycoon park, or reconfigure the vehicles and make it into a StarFlyer ride like the Six Flags parks. But this is a very easy ride to build, there's no shoestringing involved, and then you can save the track design and build it in all of your parks because every park needs a giant tower with a swing ride on top. In 19th place, we have the observation wheel. Now this was one of my first tutorials, and it could use a little bit of an update. The structure itself doesn't look that great, but the ride works. Basically, I modeled it after the London Eye observation wheel, and then also the hubless version, which is the Big O in Tokyo. Basically, riders get on an individual carriage, and they make one slow revolution all the way around, and then they exit. I could probably update this and maybe make a smaller version of it because I still think it's a really great ride, but it's just very big. Next, we have the spinning teacups. Usually you find this ride at the Disney parks as the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. This is super easy to build in Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's basically just building the track and changing the vehicles. It's a nice gentle ride you can add to your park. I actually discovered it by trying to recreate someone else's shoestring version of the ride, and I found a much easier way to do it, so give it a go because this is a fun one. Next, we have the vertical boosters, which I demonstrated with a Mr. Freeze recreation. Now this is the coolest discovery I've ever made in this game. I could not believe it when I found out I could use chain lifts to create vertical boosters where the train could pass by in one direction and get boosted, but then fall backwards and not be affected by the chain lift. So I thought that was amazing. So I'm a little surprised this one's so low on the list because this is probably my favorite. And I also discovered that this trick works on other track pieces, not just vertical track. So I feel like I'm just scratching the surface on the full potentials of what I can do with this, so I hope to use this trick in other hacked rides in the future. In 16th place, we have single riders, and this tutorial is kind of hard to show visually, but in the game, certain vehicles allow for a single or odd number of riders, and with a little trickery, we can actually use those vehicles and disguise them. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you can see here, you actually see one person getting on the Wild Mouse ride, and they actually show up as two people on the ride, but it's actually just one. So a nice trick to have single riders. Next, we have the OG tutorial. This is Frog Hopper, the very first video I ever made for this channel. In fact, I wasn't even calling the channel OpenRCT2 Tutorials back then. It had a different name, but this ride is super easy and super fun to build. I even show off 3 different variations of it so you can see what you like best, change the ride vehicles, whatever you'd like. The tutorial wasn't my best work because it was the first time, so the quality has definitely improved over the last year. And here we have Extreme, which is a ride found on top of the Strat Tower in Las Vegas. I think there are 2 kiddie versions of this ride as well, called Great Skate, I believe. But this is an amazing ride if you have a giant tower or a cliff or something to have this hang over. Super fun to ride, and it was actually while creating this tutorial that I discovered that vertical booster trick that I showed you earlier. In 13th place, we have single tile flat rides. Here you can see I took a normal size circus on the left and shrunk it down into just a 1 tile version, so basically this trick allows you to shrink flat rides down into 1 tile sizes, so you can hide a crooked house or a haunted house inside of scenery objects like this pirate building here. I have a little ride hidden inside, and I use a few other examples where you could hide a circus or whatever you want inside of a pagoda building or whatever. This trick came in handy in my Cliffside park where I wanted to hide a crooked house inside of a lighthouse to create a sort of historic tour type of ride, so the possibilities are endless. In 12th place, we have new inversions. In this tutorial, I showed how easy it is to use the tile inspector to create new inversions like the Imelman, dive loop, or giant corkscrew. I know the game is lacking with some of these track pieces, so this is a way to create those elements really easily, just using a simple little trick. Next, we have my recreation of Batman and Robin, the Chiller. Now these iconic coasters no longer exist, so I had to use a lot of Google Images to recreate the scenery as accurately as possible, and I was excited to use the new vertical booster trick I had discovered. So I'm pretty proud of how these coasters turned out, especially the scenery, because I'm not really good at elaborate scenery, so I think it turned out pretty well. Rounding out the top 10, we have the Ring of Fire or Fireball tutorial. In this video, I showed 2 different methods to build this classic carnival ride. Both methods give really good stats, and they're very easy to build. Neither involves any shoestringing, and both designs can be saved and built in any park. I also showed how to use the vehicle editor plugin to update the trains to make them look more realistic, so this is a really easy and fun one to add to your park. In 9th place, we have wave pools and ocean surf. In this tutorial, I showed how easy it is to use the geyser scenery object from one of the expansion packs to create realistic looking waves. I used this trick extensively in my Cliffside park to create waves crashing against the shoreline, so it's really easy to create a wave pool for your water park or make your beach look a little bit more realistic with waves along the shoreline. In 8th place, we have the Disco Coaster, or the smaller version, which is just the Disco. Zamperla manufactures these in real life, and they're very easy to build in the game. There's no shoestringing involved. You can save the designs and plop them down in any park or use them in scenario play. I think they look really good. They have the rotodrop vehicles on the hybrid coaster track, and they just make for a really nice, gentle to thrilling flat ride for the game. Next, in 7th place, we have the Carousel. In this tutorial, I show a new way to build the classic carousel ride using a track with horses as the vehicles. You can make it in several different sizes, and you can even change some of the vehicles to the stagecoach from the expansion packs, or the side friction car, or even the Virginia Reel tubs to have a spinning vehicle. So there's just a lot of little tricks I show you in this video, and it's definitely an improvement on the game's little old merry-go-round flat ride. In 6th place, we have stadium seating. Now this tutorial showed you a new way to build 3D cinemas, so you can actually have visible seating using the vertical drop roller coaster trains. It's a super fun trick that has a lot of different uses, but here you can see all the guests piling into my new 3D cinema. You can also change the seats into things like the spinning wild mouse or whatever. I even show how to make like a flying theater with the inverted coaster cars, so super fun, and even more options if you really want to get into it. So there's a lot you can do with this tutorial, so no wonder it's so high on the list. Rounding out the top 5, we have Titan or Topper Track. In this tutorial, I showed how to use a plugin to add certain pieces from the hybrid track to the wooden coaster, because the wooden coaster doesn't have access to certain track pieces that have been added to the game. So this is super fun. Here's a little example of the Bumbly Beach Big Dipper that I converted with partial topper track and partial wooden coaster, so super fun one, and I think there's a lot of uses to expand our layouts for the wooden coaster. In 4th place, we have the giant boomerang. This was the second tutorial I ever made for this channel. It's a very simple design, just a super compact version of Vekoma's giant boomerangs, like the Deja Vu coaster. There's even an inverted version you can make, but this is really nice for scenario play because it fits in the tiniest little narrow pieces of land, so a really easy one. In the top 3, we have mirrored rides. In this tutorial, I show you a simple trick of using the tile inspector to copy and paste a flat ride to create a clone of itself. Technically, it's not a mirror image, but it works really well for the swinging inverted ship, but can be used on other rides. This was an older tutorial, and people commented that I was zoomed way too far out, so I've definitely corrected that in future tutorials, so I do appreciate all the feedback and tips from you guys. The second most viewed video on my channel is this tour of Cliffside Park. I built this park for one of Dirklink's contests on his Discord server. We had to use a very narrow map, and then I challenged myself further by not using any of the game's flat rides, but actually all of the rides in this park were custom made using a lot of the tricks that you've seen in this video. It was this park that really inspired me to start posting regularly to this channel. I decided to create a tutorial for all of the different custom rides that you see in this park so I could show you guys how to build them yourself. So out of this park, I think came 12 different tutorials. I'm super proud of this park, and I'm glad you guys have enjoyed it just as much, and hopefully in the future I'll be posting more park tours. And in 1st place, my most viewed video is this tutorial on how to build a triple launch coaster with block brakes. Now normally the game doesn't allow you to have block brakes on rides that have backwards sections or dead-end track, but in this tutorial I show you how easy it is to connect the block brakes with some dummy track, and then the game thinks they're all connected, and it works amazingly. I love this tutorial, so I'm really glad it is the most viewed because it really helps you understand how block brakes work. I then go into more detail on how this works for backward sections of track and things like that. So really this tutorial is a good overview on the inner workings of block brakes and gives you a nice grasp of how they work. Now that's all for the year in review. If there's some videos you'd like to check out, they are all linked in the video description below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and comment. I do read and respond to all of your comments, and I really appreciate them. And make sure to subscribe, because next time I'm going to be giving you part 2 of the parachute drop tower tutorial, where I'll show you this simple little tweak that will enable all of the ride vehicles to operate independently of each other. So stay tuned for more.